What's up guys, Carmine here, and welcome back to that sweet Game of Thrones House of the Dragon season. It's been too long, but what better way to start off our favorite dragon and titty show than with a scene so brutal, only Craster would be more happy to play it back. As far as the opening episodes go, this one did its job fairly well, and there was lots to like and a few moments to dislike for both casual viewers and book fans alike, so we'll touch on that. And if you're a book fan and were expecting me to agree with you guys on what the worst moment in this episode was, I may surprise you on this one. But as always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps out a lot, and let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. But for now, let's get into it. So off the bat, I gotta say bravo to them for hitting us right in the feels with giving us that amazing shot of the North, Winterfell, and that music. For those of you who don't know or forgot, the song is called Goodbye Brother, and it was played in Game of Thrones Episode 2 when Jon is saying goodbye to Bran as he leaves for the Night's Watch. It's an appropriate theme for this as we see the Night's Watch recruitment of this era. We also see Ned Stark's ancestor, Cragen Stark, played by Tom Taylor, and I can't get over if that's his real accent or if he's doing a Ned Stark impression. I really don't know, but I wasn't digging it. And I'm also baffled by the decision the writers have to allude to the White Walker threat. By the time we get to Game of Thrones, nobody south of the Wall takes it seriously, but here, Cragen alludes that he knows a bit about the situation and understands the need for unity. And I said this last season, and I'll say it here. How come everyone who knows about the White Walkers never left a warning for future generations? That's insane. What I think happened here is that the writers wanted to reintroduce the Starks and the Night's Watch because of how visibly striking those scenes can be, while at the same time trying to harken back to how important this threat is. I can buy that Targaryen kings knew about the threat ages ago and the knowledge was lost during one of their civil conflicts, but I find it hard to believe the Starks, who helped maintain the wall for generations, would forget such a critical piece of information or wouldn't write it down somewhere to hand down to every Lord of Winterfell afterwards. The highlight of this scene, and many others, was Jace. They got rid of his European Uber driver haircut from last season and let him have his natural hair because he looks way better this time around. On the topic of highlights for this episode, Eve Best gave her best as Rhaenys, whose lines in Season 1 felt like they were just there to be in the trailers. This time around, she knocks it out of the park when she has to explain to Daemon the pain of being a mother who just lost a child. Daemon's strategy here isn't bad to take on Vhagar with multiple dragons, but for him to want Rhaenys, who's clearly exhausted, to go back out there with him is reckless, which falls in line with his character completely of acting before thinking. I will say, it's a shame that Rhaenys only ever gets to shine when she has to share scenes with someone else, because I think she could command the moment very well by herself if she were given the chance, something Rhaenyra does multiple times this episode. And speaking of which, we gotta talk about Emma Darcy's performance as Rhaenyra. They knocked it out of the park, plain and simple. In fact, I didn't realize this until I watched this second time, but Rhaenyra has almost no lines this entire episode other than, "I want Aemon Targaryen," which, yeah, let's go get that guy. Look, I have no dog in this fight, but something both sides were able to do this episode was get me to feel for them, which is great. That's exactly what you want, to be conflicted. Her scene with Jace, with him reporting back to her on his progress and barely able to finish it before they break down, was beautiful. Once again, Jace here stealing or shining bright in every scene he's in. Bravo. Which, by the way, this episode made it really tough to not like either side, because, yeah, you have your Final Fantasy villains like Daemon and Aemon, but even the Greens had their moments. Aegon, who I thought they were making Joffrey 2.0 in Season 1, came out of nowhere with his scenes of being a decent father and a fairly laid-back king. It almost feels like a different character entirely. The scene where he wants to give the guy back his sheep because he came all this way out here really caught me off guard, and it filled in a complaint I had from last season about how the Greens didn't have any sympathetic characters beyond Helena. Yeah, he could be a dude bro with his friends, but he's just hanging out, talking shit and having a good time. You can do that and still be a decent ruler. So props to the actor for giving us that charismatic smile versus this other one from last season, where he definitely earned the hate the character got from most fans. And speaking of deserved hate, Criston Cole and Alicent. What the fuck? When did that happen? How long has it been happening? Not that I'm complaining, Olivia Cooke is very beautiful, and seeing her showing off her acting skills is always welcome, of course, but what the fuck, man? I think I speak for a lot of the audience when I say it should have been me. It should have been me. God damn it, Cole. Ugh. By the way, let's get on that real quick. Alicent and Criston Cole, in Season 1, it always felt like Alicent was using him. He was a useful tool, and I mean that in both ways. And Criston Cole was very indebted to her because she saved his life. Okay, fine. But them having a full-blown relationship, what's going on there? What's the endgame to this? Someone was talking to me about how they feel as though Alicent's only role this entire episode was just to bitch and complain. And I understand that 110%. It's mostly because, yeah, Alicent's whole shtick, her whole story is basically leading up to the war and then after the war. Everything during the war, she has nothing to do. She's not a dragon seed, she's not a soldier, she's not a general, she's not a strategist, she's just a mother who's just there to, be there. She was the evil stepmother who helped start the war, in the books at least, and then now I guess they got to give her something or someone to do to, keep the actress on the payroll, because, yeah, not that I'm complaining. Once again, Olivia Cooke as well, very good actress, but expect more scenes of Alicent and Kristen Cole, I guess, and of her complaining about not having power or being undermined by every other character. And last, we gotta talk about blood and cheese. So I know quite a few casual fans who were surprised by that scene and found it fairly brutal. In fact, I plan on having a casual fan on the podcast in the near future, where hopefully we can do a reading for them of what actually happened in the books, just to compare. So, did it live up to the hype? No, it didn't, at least not for people who read the source material, but I gotta say, it really wasn't that bad. I've seen people online calling for Dave and Dan to come back just because Ryan Condal messed up a scene of children being decapitated, which is, by the way, one of the most ridiculous sentences I've ever had to record, but here we are. While I agree that it wasn't as sinister, as evil, as traumatizing as it was in the books, it was still insane for a lot of people, and it did its job of setting the stage of this bloody conflict. However, I will say I wish they included a few things from the books, one of which being Alicent. She was there while it all happens, and it ties into her going crazy towards the end of the series. And the other thing I wish they included was the trick the assassins played, where Helena has to pick one of her sons, and then they go and kill the other one she didn't pick, telling the kid, "Your mother wants you dead." And yes, I said sons because they decided to remove one of her children from the show, likely due to budget reasons. But regardless, I didn't have too much of an issue with it. It didn't live up to the hype for me, especially for book fans, which is fine. But casual fans, who are the main audience, they were horrified and, well, yeah, at least they're happy, or not happy, I guess. It definitely doesn't live up to the Red Wedding, but it's still up there in terms of brutality, especially when you realize they were trying to saw that boy's head off as proof so they can get the rest of the money from Daemon. So, still pretty gruesome stuff nonetheless. Before we wrap up the video, there are a couple of characters I wanted to touch on briefly, starting with Corlys, who's still there in the show, and hopefully he'll have much more to do this season other than complain about the Triarchy. I'm glad to see Abu Bakr Salim getting more work. I loved him as father in Raised by Wolves, and it's cool to see him here. Larys continues to be creepy, and the only character currently holding to the legacy of Varys and Littlefinger, while Mysaria is just there. In the books, she has quite the reputation as one of the best spy masters in Westerosi history, but the show has not done her any favors. Thankfully, her accent is much better this time around, but it seems like she and Cregan traded places for that. But overall, I found the episode, at least most of it, very satisfying. If I had to pick the best scene, it would be Rhaenyra and Jace, with him as my MVP character for the episode, followed by Aegon as a close second. If I had to pick my least favorite scene, it'd be a tie between Blood and Cheese and Jace and Cregan in the north, mostly because of the lore implications of Cregan potentially knowing about the White Walkers and how they missed an opportunity to bring us back to Winterfell, but didn't show us the gods would, despite showing it all the time in Season 1 back in King's Landing. In fact, I'm actually surprised people are complaining about the lack of evil Blood and Cheese and not Sarah Snow, but that's a conversation amongst other topics I'll save for the podcast. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts and questions down below because I plan on bringing back the Q&A section videos for this season. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out a lot, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.